challenge you to a duel.
It's the only argument I need. I don't want to talk to you no more, you.
You got a lot of nerve.
Soon you will know what it is like to be defeated.
Stop defending him, Sean.
All right, let's go. I'm ready for love.
Hey, sleepers! Welcome to the Sleeper Wire Great Debate Show. I am your host, Professor Chris, and with me today for our very first Waiver Wire Great Debate of the 2018 season, Dirty Jobs Mike. What's going on, man?
Not much, my friend. How are we doing this evening?
I am doing awesome. I'm so pumped that week one is almost in the books. We're recording this during the first Monday night game of the season, but week one, fantasy football, almost over. How'd you do this week?
I had a pretty good smattering. I'm in a lot of leagues. I think I probably went about, I'd say 10-6 this week as far as wins, losses. I had a few teams where I was facing Kamara, and that sucked. So those ones were the bad ones.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think I'm going 8-4 this week, so I'm pretty happy with that.
Nice. Yeah, I'd take it.
Yeah. All right, guys. Before we jump into the show, quick reminder, please go to iTunes or Google Play, drop us a 5-star rating, and leave us a nice review. That truly does help out the show and enables us to make a bigger difference. What we're doing here in the Great Debate Show is having a debate-style argument between two players who are currently on the waiver wire, most likely in your league. We're going to spend a couple minutes arguing for our player, 90 seconds for rebuttals, and then we wrap it up with untimed final thoughts on our player. And for those of you just tuning in for the first time, this is not for us to convince each other. Mike is not trying to win the debate. I am not trying to win the debate. What we're trying to do is provide legit arguments for and against these guys so you can decide who to put that waiver claim in for. And, week one, Mike, we had a lot of injuries this week.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Not as many as generally, we don't have those guys that are out for the season right now, right? So at least at this current point. But, man, Fournette, that's a tough one right there. Fournette hamstring, that scares me.
Yep. They said it was minor, but that's certainly going to be something that we are going to monitor. Let's go ahead and jump into the great debate, though. So the two guys that we're doing today, two standouts from week one, especially at the running back position, which is so volatile. We have Phillip Lindsay versus Austin Ekeler. I've got Lindsay, and Mike has Austin Ekeler. And Mike, I'm going to let you take it away. Go ahead and give me your arguments for Austin Ekeler.
Okay, so we're just going to start this out with Austin Ekeler or Danny Woodhead 2.0. This guy is like Danny Woodhead. He comes out of the slot or comes out of that backfield, catches those passes. He's in there to spell Melvin Gordon, which is amazing because that guy is a beast out there. He's going to get him to respect the run, and this guy is such a good change of pace back to come in the backfield. I love it. I love the fact that Ekeler is on this team because he fits in so good. The guy is actually pretty dang big. We're in his second year. Last year he went the full season. He had 47 attempts, 260 yards. That's 5.5 yards per carry. There's very few running backs out there that can actually taunt that kind of a stat line saying, yep, I did that. And then now the guy's bread and butter is receiving ability. He had 27 receptions last year, 270 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's 10.3 yards per average per catch. That's phenomenal stat lines for last year, when including the fact that Gordon was pretty much there the whole entire time. So this guy's going to be able to fit into this team. He's going to be in there when Gordon gets a little bit tired, but he'll also be down there on third down passing opportunities and possibly even some red zone opportunities as we were seeing yesterday. We've got Hunter Henry, who's no longer there. So that's one more red zone threat that they're going to need. You watch the game, he threw it to Tyrell Williams twice, I believe, and I watched him drop it, and then he finally caught one. Mike Williams, he was throwing to, he never dropped it, but he was never hitting him in the red zone. Keenan Allen, he might as well have forgotten about in the red zone. I mean, it just seemed like he had his idea. He wanted to go to the running back. That, to me, is perfect for this. I'm really, really liking the setup there as far as for where this guy fits in, because he's going to be in the red zone opportunities. He's going to be catching touchdowns. And in a PPR league, forget about it. This is the guy you want. This year already, 5 attempts, 39 yards. That's 7.8 yards per carry. So he's already doing better than he was last year against Kansas City, which obviously didn't show as the worst defense yesterday. I thought they were actually going to be a worse defense. But 5 receptions. 5 receptions for a running back. Forget about it. This is the guy you want on your PPR. You want him in your flex spot. You'll get him in there every single week. 17.4 average, 1 touchdown. He's limited work, but you're going to get a lot.
So Austin Ekeler once again plays his way into our in-season great debate show with a decent performance. Like you said, 5 carries for 39 yards and 5 catches for 87 yards and a touchdown for 23.6 points in PPR scoring. Pretty big game for a backup / change of pace running back. That still doesn't hold a candle to Melvin Gordon's workload of 15 carries for 64 yards and 9 receptions for 102 yards. 9. 4th most out of all players this week after Michael Thomas, Odell Beckham Jr., Julio Jones, and Emmanuel Sanders, and that's tied with Alvin Kamara. The Chargers said they wanted to get Melvin Gordon more involved in the passing game this year, and that's after he caught 58 passes last season, and he kicks off this season with 9 catches. Austin Ekeler, once again, was the change of pace back for Melvin Gordon, and he happened to break off a couple of big plays, just like he did in only 2 games last season, which is what blew up his yards per carry to 5.5. People got excited about him last season after it happened, and we put him in the great debate. Then people just ended up dropping him when they realized that it was just a fluke for him. It was just those 2 games for all the season. Is it exciting to talk about for a waiver wire show? Sure, but Ekeler has a clear-cut, true 3-down workhorse back in front of him in Melvin Gordon, who is a great player. Phillip Lindsay, on the other hand, doesn't have that. Give me the guy who has the better chance at opportunity. Going over to Phillip Lindsay here. This is what we heard. Devontae Booker is the starter. No, Royce Freeman is the starter. See, I told you, Royce Freeman is the starter. Locked and loaded, plug him in, play him, don't even think about it. True workhorse, true 3-down back. Look what he did in college. Play him every single league. Play him, play him, play him. Well, enter Phillip Lindsay, someone who was barely even mentioned over the course of the entire summer. It was all Devontae Booker versus Royce Freeman, and lately it's been just Royce Freeman. Week 1 comes up, and Royce Freeman gets 15 carries for 71 yards. That's not terrible, right? 15 touches is usually want from a running back if he's in your flex spot, which Freeman most likely was around there, maybe a running back too. 15 touches, 71 yards. Guess who also had that? That's exactly how many touches or how many carries and yards that Phillip Lindsay had this week against the Seahawks, also adding 2 catches for 31 yards and a big touchdown early that was just demoralizing for all Royce Freeman truthers. Let's look at some of their college stats here. The rushing yards were eerily similar in 2017 as well. 1,474 for Lindsay, 1,475 for Freeman. The thing that sets them apart, though, is their work in the passing game. Over 4 years at Colorado, Lindsay had 117 receptions versus Freeman's 79 at Oregon. Royce Freeman had significantly more carries and yards over the 4 years, but he was also firmly the starter for all 4 years while Lindsay was sharing work for the first 2, and Lindsay still blew him away when it came to receptions. This is a specialty in his game. It's a strong point in his game. Not only can he rush, but he can also catch the ball. Now, maybe this week was just a flash in the pan. Maybe Royce Freeman is the workhorse going forward, but for someone who is as hyped as him to split carries evenly with an undrafted free agent, that's not insignificant. Lindsay came in and had a great game, and that's with only 13 total carries in the preseason. The Broncos have to see something that they like in this guy. Royce Freeman may have started this game, but Phillip Lindsay got the 3rd carry of the game. He was in there almost right away. The Broncos they'd only run 5 plays at that point, and then they decided they wanted to give the ball to their undrafted rookie. So here, the Great Debate Show has moved into talking about who to pick up on waivers, right? All offseason we've been, the last 10 or so, who do you want to draft, this guy or this guy? Now we've moved on to waiver wires, and we had a ton of injuries this week that were significant. All right, Mike, let's hear that rebuttal here.
Okay, so I'm just going to start this off by saying I am a diehard Broncos fan. I really, really like Phillip Lindsay. I think he's great. The thing that gets to me is his size. The guy is less than 6 foot tall. He's less than 200 pounds. That doesn't add well when you're talking about the NFL. Although he is fast and he does get the ball, I still count on 6 foot, 240 Royce Freeman to carry the bulk of those carries. I think he's going to be the guy who starts, and I think he's going to be the guy that finishes. I do think Lindsay will be a good add-on back, but I look at the team situations here. You have the Broncos, who looked really good against the Seahawks yesterday, but I'm not sure right now if what I saw was the two good teams facing each other or two really bad teams that were facing each other that made each other look good. The test isn't out on that yet. I'll have to see a little bit more action before I can make that deduction. But San Diego, I mean, they came out and Los Angeles. I always get that wrong. They come out there and they looked bad against Kansas City as a division rivalry. They always pretty much do bad on week one. I really feel like they can right the ship. Give me the guy that's on the team that has the highest scoring opportunity. And for me, that's going to be Phillip Rivers, Austin Ekeler. Melvin Gordon is going to try to do everything, and he's going to be very successful at doing so. But just like the rest of us, he does get tired. He's going to need a break too. And when he needs a break, Austin Ekeler's ready to come in there, light it up, get those touchdowns. So get him in there.
All right, let's go ahead and move back into final thoughts, and we're going to take it back to Austin Ekeler. Mike, give us your final thoughts wrapping up here on Ekeler.
Okay, so more about Ekeler, like as compared to the Lindsay and Freeman situation. I think Eckler's kind of a locked and loaded guy. I feel like Lindsay will get his shares of touches, but I just don't think he'll get as much as Ekeler. I feel like Eckler's on the better team, like I just stated a second ago. And that, to me, is the one thing that tears these two apart. They're both great ads. They're both exactly almost the same player down the board. So I don't think you can go wrong with the ad on either. I just lean with Los Angeles being the better team.
And taking it back to Phillip Lindsay over here, as I was saying before the buzzer cut me off, a lot of injuries this week, a lot of big names. Delaney Walker, Doug Baldwin, Greg Olsen, Leonard Fournette, Jeremy Hill, who, I mean, not significant in smaller leagues, but in deep and dynasty leagues, he's out for the season. These are all guys, aside from Hill, who were starters or flex options. There were plenty of people who drafted Le'Veon Bell and Jerick McKinnon as their first two picks. If you're struggling for a flex or even a starting running back on your team due to this situation, I think that Phillip Lindsay is a guy that you can take a flyer on. Listen, there's no guarantees that waiver wire running backs are going to be successful all season, especially when the starter, quote-unquote starter, Royce Freeman, is still there. But when you have a guy who split carries evenly with a starter, was just as successful, if not more so, because he got those 2 catches and touchdown through the air, and he's only owned in 4% of leagues, that's a guy worth taking a shot on. All right, Mike, that is going to wrap it up for this episode of the Sleeper Wire Great Debate. Today's show was sponsored by PristineAuction.com. They have new auctions every single day for just prices that are unbelievable. Everything on Pristine Auction is JSA certified, so it's all 100% certified and authentic. The signed memorabilia is just awesome. Visit PristineAuction.com today and let them know you heard about them from Sleeper Wire. That's PRISTINE auction.com. Mike, did you have a good time back on the Great Debate?
Dude, I always have fun on the Great Debates. It's always an eye-opener. I always get my waivers all kind of lined up and everything as a result. So I love it. Love being on here.
Man, it is so great having you on every single time. And you can follow Mike on Twitter at DirtyJobs21. I am on there at Prof_Chris SW. You can find us on SleeperBot at Dirty Jobs and Professor Chris, on the Fantasy Life at Dirty Jobs and Professor Chris, and you can also find me on Instagram at Professor Chris SW. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll catch you next time.